Dotting the landscape of the world's highways and freeways are signs declaring the speed limit. While these limits vary based on geography, population density, and from country to country, they are a shared concept in that they all declare the maximum speed at which studies tell us it's safe to travel. F5's Office of the CTO wrote a book, Enterprise Architecture for Digital Business. Julia Renoir, Vice President of Engineering in F5's Office of the CTO, is the author of Chapter 7, The Need for Speed. And I got to have a discussion with her about this chapter. Now, within business, the concept of speed often conflicts directly with established expectations of uptime. Service level agreements, SLAs, become a standard practice in every IT organization as businesses grew increasingly dependent on technology to operate. Like speed limits, they express a relationship with safety. To operate business safely, it can only tolerate minimal disruption. This is traditionally expressed as a percentage of uptime, most often referred to as 5 nines. As society increases its reliance on digital services in every aspect of daily life, meeting this expectation has become more critical to business. It's not unexpected to hear businesses demand of IT 6 nines. That's only giving 30 seconds of downtime per year. Now, consumers and competitive pressure result in a requirement for more frequent releases and updates to digital services, and this puts safety at risk. So this quandary has given rise to the practice of SRE operations and a shift towards service level objectives, SLOs, that recognize the inevitability of disruption while simultaneously building out the expertise to minimize it. Chapter 7 highlights SRE operations and its importance to successfully operating a digital business. Hey everyone, I am joined today by Julia Renoir. She is the Vice President of Engineering at F5's Office of the CTO, and she is one of the authors in the book, Enterprise Architecture for Digital Business. Specifically, she's the author for Chapter 7, which is The Need for Speed. And today we're going to be talking all about SRE operations and it's important to the success when it comes to a digital business. And so maybe we can start off. There's a couple acronyms that we've got to define throughout this chapter here. A couple of the first ones that have come up are SLO and SLA, and maybe we can talk about that and how that applies to the topic that you're talking about.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Glad to be here. Thank you, Boo. So just to even, start off, site reliability engineering, SRE, is a practice that really wraps up a lot of these concepts and provides some ways to think about how to improving operations. SLOs and SLAs. So SLA is a service level agreement. This is something that a lot of operations teams are very familiar with. It ends up being a contractual agreement and usually carries with it financial penalties or consequences. And this can be things like length of outages or response times to tickets. An SLO is a service level objective. And these are really, consider this kind of your roll-up dashboard, your targets for understanding how your service is meeting your users and your customers' needs. This can represent reliability of the system. It can represent latency, for instance, in a system response time on a website or latency in an API. So there are a number of things depending on your type of service that can roll up. The key difference really is, I think, how you use these, right? And SLA is, again, this is sort of the lowest common denominator and often has contractual financial consequences to it. And SLO is something you can use to kind of calibrate your operations and understand if you're meeting your users' needs and setting expectations with those users.
That's interesting. So, that the SLO then doesn't necessarily get shown to folks that are signing off on an SLA, like as a customer of whatever business service it is, then they might not be so concerned about the objective itself. They're just concerned about you agreed to this service level, X milliseconds for this API. However you achieve that is up to you.
Yes, so the definitely your users and your customers are going to sign off on an SLA, right? That again is the contractual agreement, and that's the minimum set of expectations. Now, the transparency that you want to give your users about your own SLO, I think that's a decision that a business can make. SLOs it is, as much as anything, it's an internal measure of, are you achieving the expectations that help you maintain your agreement with your SLAs?
Okay, so transparency is a great way to put that then. As far as what people see versus what people get rolled out into the public. So when it comes to, so you actually went ahead and defined SRE as well. So maybe we can dig into that as far as a role. What type of role does that play when it comes to meeting these objectives?
So I would say that the SRE, a site reliability engineer, their goal is to maintain the reliability and performance of the systems that they're responsible for. And SLOs are a key tool that they use to understand that. I would say a key way is they use this SLO measure. So underneath that are a whole bunch of other indicators that we call SLI, service level indicators that roll up into a top level measure. And the SRE's role is to make sure and maintain the reliability of that system, ensure that we're meeting those SLOs, and drive improvement where we're not. The other role an SRE can play is further understanding where the system needs to improve, what enhancements we need to make to the system, and building in the automation and continuous improvement so that we can deliver that reliability with increasing efficiency.
So not that I'm looking for a new job right now, but I've noticed like in job postings that the term systems administrator and network administrator is seen less and less now. And we're seeing SRE as a description, perhaps for an evolution of a systems or network administrator. Does that sound right?
Yes, I think we are seeing that more and more. And I think what it really indicates is this transformation in the industry. And our understanding of the complexity of these systems and how we maintain them. A systems administrator or a lab, perhaps a lab administrator of old, an operations engineer, it was very much a status quo, a maintain and keep up and running. And SRE takes on a continuous improvement mindset. And in fact, an SRE is really focused on continuing to measure and automate and improve a system, even to the degree where you're not looking to keep a rigid system as status quo. You're looking to continue to evolve and improve that system, and through automation and through continuous improvements in your measurements.
So you've talked a bit about now the measurement of the system performance and the indicators and how that rolls up into the objectives. Is the actual measurement and the instrumentation of that, is that part of an SRE role, or are we looking at an outside role that actually contributes that to the SRE with what the SRE builds?
So the measurements is definitely a part of the SRE's role. And then actually, in fact, I would say that it's not always necessarily a discrete role. It's often a mindset. So the SRE practice could be embedded in a service team that's delivering the whole service from end to end. One of the objectives is to really optimize, in modern systems, you want to optimize for that end-to-end delivery and continuous improvement of the system. And so there are cases where the SRE practice, the automation, continuous improvement, understanding of what your service level objectives are embedded in the team that is owning, also improving that service. There are times when it is a separate team that's focused on that core service and its integrity and making sure that we can continue to meet those objectives and improve those over time, and perhaps in collaboration with a separate team that's driving improvements to that system. So it really kind of depends on the organization and perhaps the size, maturity, or complexity of the services that they're operating. But the measurement element is really embedded in the SRE mindset. It's automation, it's measurement, and it's continuous improvement.
And so we've talked a little bit now about the traditional or older systems administrator, network administrator evolving to something like this. And this book is all about the modernization of transformation of a business to being digital. So we have a lot of legacy environments that have to shift to something like this, right? We're not talking about necessarily something net new that gets dropped in, maybe in some cases, but a lot of companies aren't going to have that luxury of just building up an entire new team right beside an existing team. So when it comes to this modernization of this team, and you're taking folks from the old way of thinking to the new way of thinking, are we looking at some of the main obstacles as being culture, tools, the measurement that we talked about?
Yeah, I think it's all three, right? And I really think about it, and what part of what we outline in the chapter is kind of the three key steps to getting started. Start measuring. Understand what you're trying to achieve. Start to set your targets, and those may be a first cut. But now start measuring and understanding where you're at. Start automating. Where's the next opportunity for you to improve that quality, improve the efficiency, improve the response times, whatever that is. And then a continuous improvement process, which includes maintenance retrospectives. Take a look at your last maintenance event and where can you improve your ability to turn that around, right? Take a look at your last, a root cause analysis on your last incident response, right? What can be instrumented to prevent that in the future? So this just becomes a wash, rinse, repeat, right? But building in that measurement, getting those automation skills, tools, and mindset, and then that continuous improvement mindset and culture that really allows you then to continue to drive that improvement over time. And legacy systems, part of what's being asked of them in terms of modernization is bringing in the complexity of the digital of the digital world, right? So now we're connecting these legacy systems to services on the internet, to other services that we're bringing on, that we're onboarding into the enterprise. And the challenge there is that your measures of reliability become multidimensional. And that's where now understanding what you're measuring and why becomes more important. And the practice, going back to the SLOs that we spoke about, and up-leveling and understanding what is the level of service that you're trying to deliver.
It sounds daunting, but it also sounds really exciting, like to be able to take something like this and really benefit the business through changes in IT, when normally IT is looked at as a cost center, and now turning it into something that's a real benefit to the business. Sounds really exciting to me. So hopefully people can check out this chapter of the book wherever you're watching this from, or possibly listening to it as well. There will be links either down below or over to the side as far as being able to get a hold of this book. Again, that's Enterprise Architecture for Digital Business. I want to thank you very much, Julia, for joining me today. It was great chatting with you, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you for having me.